side piece account,
financial one-night stand,
credit disease,
financial STD.
What are we talking about? We're warming you up for a titillating conversation with Tarra Jackson, aka Madam Money, where we talk about financial fornication and our financial languages.
Tara's a personal finance expert who's on TV, radio, and everywhere else. She's a spokesperson, brand ambassador, award-winning international speaker, and the best-selling author of Financial Fornication and For Financial Languages.
Tara is also a credit union executive VP and CEO, so she knows her stuff.
You're listening to Queer Money episode number 392. If you hang on to the very end, we'll share how you can get a chance to possibly win a free copy of Tara's book, For Financial Languages, The Secret to Communicating About Money.
So let's get on with the show. The mission of Queer Money is to financially empower the LGBTQ plus community. Join us in thanking Capital One for supporting that mission.
Welcome, Tara, Miss Madam Money Jackson, to the Queer Money Podcast.
Hey, my two favorite people.
I
Yes.
love it. I'm excited about this conversation. Financial fornication.
Yeah,
Sounds very sexy. So
it's very sexy,
It's scary.
right?
Can you fornicate with your money? What is
Yeah.
that?
Oh, well, I've done it for many, many years. I'm, Financial Fornicators Anonymous. So it's pretty much not having a plan with your money and abusing the power of money without a commitment, without a plan. That's where the plan is, right? So you're going outside of what you need to do to get what you want, right? And so a lot of us are guilty of that, where retail therapy is really real. The less we feel, the more we spend. Some of it, that's just, I wrote a book, The Four Financial Languages. That's just our language is spending, you know what I mean? And so with us, our spenders, we go based on how we feel, happy, sad, medium, whatever, spending is that pleasure principle. So that's financial fornication.
It's interesting you describe it this way, because literally like 5 minutes ago, I saw a meme on Twitter, which was an actual screenshot of Viktor Frankl's book. And he basically said, without purpose, we will go and seek pleasure. And that's kind of what you're saying here. If we don't have purpose with our money, it's
Right.
likely going to head down to the pleasure path. And more often than not, that's short-term pleasure, right?
Exactly. So the purpose gives us focus to go down for long term, right? Even though it may not feel good right now, we know there's a purpose, there's a reason, and pleasure is at the end of that reason. But if we don't have the purpose to get to the long-term pleasure, we're going to go for short-term pleasure, which is the transaction.
Yeah.
Or whatever our vice is.
Yeah, exactly.
Shopping.
Shopping.
Coffee.
Yeah, I think it's funny because we went down this path so many times in our lives as well. When we had our credit card debt, and I think even some of the best personal finance experts out there, from time to time, we lose a little bit of a focus, and all of a sudden we find ourselves, oh, you know what? Let's have 2 martinis tonight instead of 1, or let's extend this vacation a little bit,
Right.
or let's
Someone
take a
sounds
nicer
like he's speaking from
vacation.
experience.
I say that, the best financial experts experience what they talk about, right? So if you've been a spender, if you've been a financial fornicator, if you have financial STDs, substantially tremendous debt, because you've been there, you understand the pain. It gives you some empathy. And those are the ones that make the best financial experts and counselors and coaches.
100%. I think you just referred to us all as experts. I appreciate the compliment. I know that Tara is definitely an expert
Expert at experiencing things.
Right,
According to what
exactly.
Tara's saying.
But I think to your point, like, we're all human, even though we have the podcast and we're on social media and we're trying to help everybody with their finances. We're still human at the end of the day. And I think this brings up an interesting point. I think if I understand correctly, you were also in financial services, mostly in the credit union space.
Yeah.
David and I were in financial services, and you've admitted to being a financial fornicator and having STD. I feel bad saying that.
It's a financial STD. Yeah.
No.
Let's clarify.
Yes, exactly.
But then we were there too, and this seems to be so prolific in our industry. Theoretically, financial advisors and planners and bank managers, we should all be theoretically
Fiscally
we're seen as
responsible.
experts, but but we're not. Why do you think it seems to be such a challenge even within our own industry?
Well, how about I was the president and CEO of a credit union, but my finances were trash, right? I could
Yeah.
run a financial institution. I could stay on budget. I could create a budget. You know what I'm saying? Had a great relationship with my CFO. Like we talked about everything I wanted to do. I involved my CFO. But when it came to my personal finances, I didn't use the same practices at work in home, right?
Mhm.
I got lazy. And so because work stressed me out so much, home or after work was I need as much pleasure as possible because if not, I'm going to go and do something bad. So that's how stressful, financial services
Yeah.
industry is
She's
very
going to end up on
stressful.
2020.
Oh,
Exactly.
no, don't end up on 2020.
The lady that, yeah, no, I don't want to be that chick. So, we're still trying to find ourselves. And a lot of us, we may not be personally disciplined. That's like that doctor that may be overweight and smoking, telling other people how to live a healthier life. You know what I'm saying? Just because we know what to do doesn't mean we do it. Just because you know better doesn't always mean you'll do better. So at some point we have to get, personally, because we're human as well, we got to get to that point where we have to start building up our purpose and figuring out what we want in our lives and practice what we preach.
I love
Because
that.
preachers don't always practice what they preach,
That's
but
true.
they know from education or experience how to help other people.
100%. So I guess before we dive, I have a couple thoughts right there, but I want to follow with
Wait,
the original.
you told me
thought.
the other day that you only have one thought at a time.
Sometimes not even one. What should the general public take from the challenges that those of us in the financial services industry, those of us who are experts, have had with our finances? Any takeaways that the general public should have with that?
I would say the general public should appreciate that your expert, your coach, your counselor has experienced some challenges because they've overcome them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The reason why people follow Jesus is not because he died, it's because he resurrected, right? Had he not resurrected, the story probably would have went another way. So there
there
is,
wouldn't be a story.
right. You're exactly. It wouldn't have been as hot. You know what I mean? So we have gone through financial resurrection, even though we may have, I've been through the collections, the foreclosures, the student loans, very bitter about my student loans, all of that. Because I've overcome it, I can now educate people what not to do, or if you're in that situation, how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And, I know the jargon. I know what they're looking for. I know how to ask for certain things. A lot of people don't know what to ask for. So because I've experienced it, I am now an expert in that so that I can help other people become experts in their family finances.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I think there are personal finance experts out there who put themselves out there as never having made a financial mistake. And I think it's comes across a little bit disingenuous, or at the very least, I can't necessarily relate to you because
right, it's judgmental.
You're clearly perfect and I'm not.
Right, they're obviously perfect, and you're not going to understand, the emotions that I'm feeling, because having financial issues is an emotional, mental pain. You know what I mean? So if you've never experienced it, you don't have any empathy for what I'm going through, not just financially, but emotionally,
Right.
Spiritually, mentally, and sometimes physically.
We definitely need more empathy in the personal finance space.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So why do you think it's so, you've written for several books about finances. Why do you think it's so hard even today, despite the plethora of blogs and podcasts and experts and TV shows about finances? Why do you think it's even today still so hard for people to have this conversation?
Because they're not taught at an early age to make it a habit, right? We're taught at a certain time, and everything that we know about money, it's probably been somewhat of a lie. And so now we have to believe a new truth. Is it really the truth? Now it's uncomfortable because I got so used to being bad at money, relatively, right? Or fornicating with my money. Now you're telling me I have to be financially abstinent? really, I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
So if we had learned early on elementary school about money, true money, how to budget, and I teach elementary school students the bucket system, and that helps them to understand budgeting in the future. If we had understood that, that would be a common practice. That's why reading, writing, arithmetic, that's why 2 and 2 is 4. We can add that when we're what, 6 all the way up to what, 90, 600, right? I do believe that if we have it somewhere in the schools, and if not in the schools, at the home, to teach us early on, it would not be as difficult to grasp onto it and do it as adults. But the parents can't teach what they don't know, and the
Right.
parents aren't going to know if they haven't been taught.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. And then people a lot of time will tell you what to do, and they'll hear what to do, but it's scary trying to figure it out and do it yourself.
Right.
And I would probably say for a lot of parents, they don't want to teach it because they may have to, well, first they have to face the truths themselves,
Right.
right? Especially if there's some skeletons in their closets, or there's some things in their life currently that they probably don't want their kids to necessarily know about.
Mhm.
And then that makes it harder to, yeah, I think most parents want to come off to their children as they're the ones who have done it right, or they are the ones who are teaching them how to do it right, but don't want to necessarily expose their mistakes.
And some of them don't want to stress the child out, because children get
Right.
stressed. And if they learn that their mommy and daddy is having money issues, that can cause a stressor for a child that may be unnecessary, that, the parent feels is unnecessary. They're already stressed at school and everything like that. So that's true. I just say find something and learn together. So even if it's like the stock market, I do like a stock scavenger hunt with families, where we go around the house and we find what you buy the most. Is it name brand? Is that brand on the stock? Is it publicly traded? If it's publicly traded, how many shares? How much does it cost per share? Is it going up or is it going down or whatever? So we look at the graph, and if it's going up, relatively up, that may be something as a family you want to buy 1 or 2 shares in. So every time you buy it at the store, you're buying it from a company you own. So that teaches the entire family about ownership and makes them excited about investing. And so hopefully then they'll start investing more and doing more. So you started doing fun. I mean, I used to do that with my son, where, okay, we only have this amount of money. I need you to find me things that we normally get that's name brand, and find something that's not name brand that's cheaper. And whatever extra money we have, I'll treat you, or we'll do something.
So you're kind of gamifying it for the children a little bit.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
That's how they understand that
Yeah.
and repetition. And when it's fun, they'll continue to learn. Like I always say, if I can make you laugh, I can make you learn. Because if it's fun, I'm going to remember fun things. I'm not going to remember boring, tedious things. I might remember it. I'll remember that it's boring and tedious, and I'll do it.
Algebra.
Right. I loved algebra and calculus and
Calculus.
trigonometry, and everybody was like, "You're crazy."
All right, let's talk about some of Madam Money's vernacular. I love it. What is when I heard this, I was like, it's brilliant. What is a side piece account?
Oh gosh, I love my side piece account. Sorry. A side piece account. Most people, when I ask them, do they have a savings account? They say yes, right? And it's
Mhm.
usually that savings account that's tied to their checking account. So every time the checking account can't give them what they want, they tap that asset of the savings account, right? And that's what I consider as a side piece account. It's there to give you the immediate or temporary pleasure that your main checking account can't provide you, right? So a lot of people will lie to themselves and say, "Oh, well, I have $500. I put $500 a month in my savings account," but they're spending 450 of it before the end of the month, right? So I consider that as a psychological side piece account. Now, a true savings account, I call it a mama account, a reverence account, right? The savings account is not tied to the checking account, not in the same financial institution. It probably will take effort to get the money out, and you set it and forget it. So you have money going straight to that savings account, and you kind of forget that it's there. Because the whole logic is that savings account may not give you everything that you want when you want it, but it will build up to give you what you need. So that's why I call it a mama account or a reverence account, right? So there's a lot of people that have that side piece account that's tied to their checking account and wonder why they can't save. Well, that's
Right.
why, because a side piece was never designed to give you what you need. It's only designed for temporary pleasure, and it's temporary. And we're talking about banking accounts, okay?
Right.
Get your mind out the gutter.
No, but
Look,
I
I
think
see the face.
no, it is. It's great that you use the language that I think a lot of people are comfortable using. Right. I think it was Gabby Dunn who, on the very first episode of their podcast, the Bad with Money podcast, did or maybe it was back when they were doing stuff for BuzzFeed, but the one that walked into Starbucks and asked people, what's your favorite sexual position? What's the balance in your account? And people wanted to answer the sexual position question, didn't want to answer the balance in your account question. So if you kind of tie it to things that people already kind of enjoy talking about, it does make you feel a little bit more comfortable, because it gets you to snicker about it a little bit.
Let me tell you something. The reason why I wrote Financial Fornication the way I wrote it is because I saw a Hardee's commercial, and it was when they were doing the sexy campaign. I don't know if y'all remember, but they had a chick with a bikini on top of a car, spraying herself with water, and then biting into a freaking cheeseburger. And it was all of that just to sell a cheeseburger. So my thought was, if sex can sell a cheeseburger, it damn sure can sell financial literacy. So that's when I was like, okay, well, if people want to talk about who they slept with, who they want to sleep with, but nobody wants to talk about their crappy credit. So let's put that together. Let's see how that's going to work. I mean, I really thought I was going to be ostracized from every religion known to man, but the churches love it because, we gotta, we all need to be delivered from financial fornication.
Well, and it does make sense, right? When you think about this side piece, and some of the other terms that you use, that there is a little bit of a, oh yeah, I do that, but I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and it's the same thing when it comes to the sexual side of it too.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. No, don't do that.
Okay, so something you probably shouldn't do too often. I wouldn't say maybe never, but what is a financial one-night stand?
Okay, so a financial one-night stand is usually that purchase where it requires it's a couple $100s or whatever, and it's something that can be paid off immediately, but you put it on a credit card and you turn that financial one-night stand into a long-term relationship. And we all know most of the time, 9 times out of 10, one-night stands should never be drawn out to long-term.
Never become LTRs.
Every once in a while it may work out, but I wouldn't chance it. But those financial one-night stands are meant to be a one-night stand. If it's less than like $500, I say pay it off. Don't put it on a credit card. Don't pay the minimum payment. I mean, as a financial institution, president, if you want to pay me the interest and make us rich, I really appreciate your money. But as a financial advocate or consumer advocate, I'm like, why give the bank your money when you can save up and pay that off?
Right.
Not if it's a couple $1,000s, I get it. But if it's like $500 or less, don't drown. Don't, if he's not that cute, don't call him again. Just don't do it.
Now SBV is saying, please keep all that money on loan. We need that interest.
Right. Yeah, they're like, please give me the money.
A lot of small banks right now that are like, please
don't pay it off. Don't pay it off.
Please make me your long-term relationship. Yes.
Then what is financial and credit disease? Dis-ease.
Well, when you're having financial issues, that is the disease. That's all a disease is a dis-ease, whether it's in the body, whether it's in the mind. You have a dis-ease. Your body is out of ease, right? And so a lot of times we are dealing with financial situations, whether it is because of you lost your job, if it's because of a family emergency or something that you weren't prepared for financially, but you had to figure out how to do it. And now you're in a financial bind or a financial situation. You're in dis-ease. So the object of the game is to find out what is the cure for the dis-ease? Sometimes it's financial abstinence. Sometimes it could be, bankruptcy, that's the last resort, but you have to identify and go to a professional, and do not self-diagnose. Please do not self-diagnose, because if you do the wrong thing, if you do bankruptcy prematurely, that's going to negatively affect you and other things that you may want to do. That's why that purpose is important, that plan, but also talking to a professional.
Yeah, exactly. So too many financial one-night stands can give you a financial STD, which is a financial disease, right?
Yes, there you go. Because substantially tremendous debt is the
Yes.
STD,
Yeah.
which will cause that financial dis-ease. And now you need cures.
Yeah.
Which takes me to my favorite quote of yours that I read was, you said once, credit is like sex. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you do, use protection.
Use protection, a budget. That's my favorite quote.
Yeah, that is.
We often say that ours is now, and now I feel like our talking point for credit cards is so boring now. Ours is credit cards are like swimming in the deep end. If you don't know how to swim, stay in the shallow end. If you're comfortable swimming, then fine, use credit, but use it wisely.
A lot of fun can happen in the deep end.
A lot of fun can happen in the deep end. Okay, look, we can make that sexy.
Right. Yeah. Well, you have a diving board. You have all, there's all sorts of things that you can do in the deep end of a pool. But if you don't,
if you can't swim,
you can't swim.
You got one job. Don't die. Come on. Come on. Don't do it.
So what are some of the tools that you suggest that people use to make sure that they use protection? What are the proper protective tools for people to use to manage their money and to help them make sure they don't have that STD, financial STD?
And I'm going to speak to spenders, because most of the time it's the spenders that have these issues, right? We're not bad. We're not bad people. A saver's not better than a spender, or not, better than anything. But as spenders, we have to be very careful. We need spending plans, one, not a budget, because when we hear budget, we hear diet, die, no, I can, and we don't have time for that negativity in our life. So we like spending plans. How are we planning on spending our money? Because the transaction is what gives us a pleasure principle. So I can spend on savings, spend on investing, spend on giving, and spend on everything else I want, right?
Tired of all the credit card offers you get from your current credit scoring app? Download CreditWise by Capital One today to avoid them.
We also need boundaries. So I don't give myself a lot of access to all of my money. Okay, so I do have the reference account. I may have another account, or if I go out, I don't take all my credit cards. I take one credit card, which is like my spending account. So I know what's in there, or I'll use cash. Cash is king, right? Because the debit card makes you feel like everything's unlimited until it declines, right? So you don't have a wherewithal of how much money you're spending. But when you see that cash go away, and now you're left where you had 200, now you're left with a 20, something's mentally going to go off in you as far as boundaries are concerned. Okay. I would kick out a lot of the non-essential spending, right? Like you said, so instead of eating out 5 times a week, why don't we just do it let's start with 3 and then go down to 2 times a week, see if we can actually cook or whatever. And going out means, what are those, Uber Eats and everything like that?
Yeah.
Instead of doing it 7 days a week, let's try to buy some groceries and only do it maybe 4 times a week or whatever, right? So don't cold turkey. Cold turkey means that you're going to be famished, mentally you'll be famished and you'll want to indulge more. And what else was it? Financial abstinence. Financial abstinence means just not using credit until you can get a handle on it. From what I hear, if you have an STD, I don't know this for sure, but the doctor will usually tell you, hey, stop having sex, don't do it, just
Take
stop. Okay, take a minute, take some time
Evidently, no
off,
doctors have told Tara to not have sex.
I don't know if any
she has
doctor
children,
told
so
me.
it didn't work.
Right, it did not work. I did not listen, still not listening. That's my business. But financial abstinence is just not using credit for a while until you can get a handle of it, until you can pay it down. Because a lot of people pay it down, use it, pay it down, use it, pay it down, and it's not paying it off. They're just paying it down so they can use it. So you're still paying all that interest and giving it to the bank. Shout out to all the banks that really like to take your interest. But once you stop using credit for temporarily until you can pay things off, that is a good way to avoid the financial STDs as well. The best way is to really consult with a financial professional that you like, know, and trust, that can give you some strategies and not just sell you products, right? Sometimes consolidation is not the key. Sometimes buying this product is not the key. Sometimes it's just strategy. Sometimes it's the snowball effect. Sometimes it's the avalanche effect. So, yeah, talk to a professional like me or the debt-free guys.
I love it. I love it. So you talked about the 4 financial languages, and you talked about there's the spending language. Do you mind giving us a high-level overview of what the other 3 languages are?
Sure. It's saving. The 4 languages are saving, spending, investing, and giving. So I've done a lot of research over about 15 years, because a lot of marriage counselors or pastors will call me in when there is an issue about money. And so my job was to listen, interpret, then translate to each of them what they were saying financially, because they just weren't hearing each other. And that's when I realized it's like a language. One person speaking Spanish, another one speaking Greek. They may be saying the same thing, but there is a language barrier that's there. So the 4 dominant ones are the saving, spending, investing, and giving. So savers, they like safety, security, and control. They like the word budget because that means that they can tell their money where it's going. So they need that. And if a saver's savings account gets below a certain threshold, they will freak the heck out. Like there is a threshold. And if they get near it, things are gonna, they'll be that wealth warden. And if you ask for pizza, they'll give you $3 and say, go get a slice. You'll be all right.
Oh, everybody on our show has heard about the head of lettuce. We got into a fight at a Whole Foods once because I wanted to get a head of lettuce real quick on the way home, and it was, I don't know, what does that head of lettuce cost? $1.29? I don't know what it was. We got right about $1.29.
Yeah.
Talk about warden. But I'm the spender.
Okay, so we'll talk about the spenders last, right? Because you might do it. So an investor, they're always seeking the return on investment, whether it is financial, emotional, spiritual, or whatever. Anything that they put forth, they want a return on investment. They are very key learners. If they want to learn something about something, they're going to go and actively seek it, active learners. And they need to, have their answers questions. Like, don't tell an investor, like, don't lie to them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll kill the deal, whatever it is. They may want to invest in you, but at least if you say, I don't know, let's find out, they're okay with that. And they understand that risk is relative to reward. So they're not scared to lose the money. They just want to know all the facts before they can make an informed decision with that, right? The givers, I love my givers because their heart is, how can I help? Right? They're the resource person. But what I also love about givers is they're naturally fiscally bilingual. So they're naturally fiscally bilingual, okay? Which means that they naturally speak at least 2 financial languages. So if a giver can give money, they're probably also a saver. If a giver gives gifts, they're probably also a spender. And if a giver, like the angel investors or whatever, they're probably also investors. So that's what I love about that.
Yeah.
Now our spenders,
Hey.
our spenders, our pleasure principle is the transaction. Now we may have vices to the transaction. Mine is food and alcohol. Don't judge me. But
hey,
we're all on that same little boat.
We are twins.
We're sisters,
right?
from another mister.
Right, exactly. We are twins, right? And so we look for that transaction. That's what, and that's where the retail therapy really comes into play, especially if we're upset. Even if we're happy, we're going to spend money somewhere, and we're going to do it with our vice that we have, right? Some people's vice are clothes, some are shoes. Y'all know what mine is, lemon pepper wings and vodka. I'm just saying. But we do that. But what I need people to understand is that a saver, again, is not better than a spender, not better than a giver, not better than an investor. We're all the same, right? What makes one worse is the excess. You can oversave and interrupt a good lifestyle because you're hoarding cash, right? And you're not investing and you're not enjoying life and you're not giving back to the universe. You can overspend and spend all your money. You can overgive and give all your money away, or you can overinvest and invest and lose all your money. So it's really about balance. And it's about understanding all 4 languages so you can speak it and understand it when it serves you. So even if I'm a spender, when we start talking about investing, I understand the language of investing. I can speak the language of investing, and I now can execute it in my language. So I'm going to spend on investing, right?
Gotcha.
So that's where the whole book came from. And it was very successful when I implemented it in all my case studies. And I wrote the book.
Sure. I love that. So I'm curious, what happens when you have a couple in a relationship who have 2 different love languages, financial languages? How do you get them to
probably the same thing?
It's probably the same thing, right?
How do you get them to get on this? They probably are, they could be on the same page, but how do you get them to understand each other a little bit better so they can work together as a team with what their goals are?
First thing you need to do is buy the 4 financial languages, because I actually explain how to communicate. So if you are in a relationship with a saver and you're a spender, I give you an example of a conversation. About, how to, we're going to want to spend some money. So how do you communicate to a saver that doesn't want to spend any money that you want to spend some money, right?
John, how do you communicate to me that you want to spend money?
You probably just says, I want to spend this money.
I just say, I bought this thing, David. Add it to the
budget. Right. So
his communication is the package showing up on the front door.
Right.
Oh, I forgot to tell you about that.
Yeah. And what, financial infidelity? Okay. Well, at least you're not hiding it. It is on the door.
No, he sees it coming up the walkway on his Ring phone.
On his Ring phone.
Why is the Amazon guy here again?
Like first name basis. But really, you just like if you were speaking 2 different languages, if you love each other enough, you're going to learn each other's language, right? So that you can communicate to one another in their language. And then you'll create your own language together, right? But it doesn't change the fact that you have different languages. It's just who you are. But if I can communicate and tell you I love you in your language, you're going to appreciate me more and maybe be less defensive and learn my language as well, right? Because a spender, I did have to learn saving, how to communicate to savers, because I dated a saver, and everything I said coming out of my mouth that he heard was spend, 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 spend. I didn't think so. I think we needed some stuff and we had to buy it, but in his ear, it was spend, 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 spend. So I had to say, well, babe, we really need this item right now, but can you help me shop around to see if we can find the best deal that's within our budget and see how that's going to work out?
You're so diplomatic.
Right. But what David's going to hear is shop around, best deal within budget.
Yes. Okay.
So he may not say yes, but he may be more open than saying, we need to buy this. He's going to be like, we have 20,000 TVs in this house. We do not need another TV. Okay. Look, we already have a head of lettuce that we had.
How many heads of lettuce do you need?
Right. Probably the reverse is true then. Then if I say, we need this, go find a way to get it and keep it under budget, then he hears, I get to spend, and he goes off and tries to spend.
But you're going to have to give us a little bit more boundary than under budget, because we don't like the word budget.
Yeah.
So if you tell me not to spend my money, because I can be a narcissistic spender, I worked hard for this. I got this money. This is my money, and you're not going to tell me not to spend my money, because I'll spend my money, your money, and everybody else's money. How about that? So we can be very, spiteful, petty. Call me Petty LaBelle. Call me what you want. But what you can say is, we need this. I need you to go find it and buy it, but we need to keep it around $300 to $500. Okay. We've already bought it in our mind. We already know. Yeah. You tell me I have $500 extra to spend this week. 2 seconds. I already know what I'm going to buy. So it does work that way.
It's so funny. The running joke in our house is David will say something that, we need this, or we should look at getting that. And then I say, oh, I just bought it on Amazon. Like, no matter where I am, what I'm doing, I'm like, I just bought it on Amazon. That's how good I am.
It'll be here tomorrow. I already bought it on Amazon.
See, I can read your mind. I already knew. That's awesome.
I love it. So what do you think, if someone's listened to this episode, they and their partner speak different financial languages, how do you think they should get what's the first thing they should do after they get the book, which they might be able to get a free copy of it if they listen to the end of this episode?
Awesome. I love telling people, and this is also in the book, and teaching you how to do it, is to have money dates. Okay. A money date is not sitting at the table talking about how much money you get in, all the bills and everything. It's the complete opposite. You actually go out on a date, whether it's dinner, movie, you have fun together, dancing, whatever you both like to do together. You come back and you're intimate, whether it's sex, whether it is cuddling, whether it is caressing, or whatever. And I talk about the chakras, right? And the importance of chakras, what chakras are, and the importance of chakras. And all of that, having fun together, being intimate together, opens up chakras. And when your chakras are open, that just means it opens you up to be more compromising or more open to other ideas. So we want to give you comfortable, relaxed, not defensive, because if you're sitting at a table talking about money and bills and all that, somebody's going to get defensive, especially if it's a saver and a spender talking.
Never happened here.
The spender is going to get defensive. I'm just here to tell you. And we don't want that to happen. So we want to have a loving situation. And you're not talking about money per se, but you're talking about goals. What is it that we want to accomplish? What is our purpose? What do we want to do? Do we want to buy a house? Do we want to go on vacation? Do we want to be debt free? What is it that we want to do together? And then what do we need to do to make this happen? And naturally, both of them or both of you will find, well, maybe instead of us, a spender, when a spender says, well, maybe instead of us spending money on food every day, why don't we just do that maybe 2 or 3 times a week? That's huge if a spender makes a recommendation to stop spending, but you want that to come from a spender.
Yeah.
Right. And the saver, maybe we can adjust our budget so we can do more fun things together. And maybe if we pay off this debt, maybe then we'll do something fun together. Right. So you're having that conversation. That's a money date. Of course, you need to have the sit down. Okay, here are the bills or whatever.
Sure.
But when you're doing a true money date, it should be enjoyable. You should have fun having these conversations. And when you start having fun having a conversation, you won't have as many, money misunderstandings, dollar disagreements or crucial cash conversations. You know what I'm saying? So those budget battles, you don't want
Queen
those.
of alliteration. I love it.
Right.
So, but yeah, those money dates, and I give you examples. I even give you like a whole 12 months of ideas of, what to talk about, what topics to talk about, because you're not going to talk about the same thing every time you have a money date, but at least once a month, have that money date, talk about a specific topic. What are some of your goals? What do you want to do? Do you want to go back to school? What do you want to do? And then figure out, well, how can we make this happen together? It may not going to happen now, but within the next 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely. I love it. So we are going to give away a free copy of the 4 financial languages to those of our listeners and viewers who stay on to the end. But how else can our listeners and viewers connect with you if they want to get more Madam Money Jackson?
All they have to do is go to madammoney.com, MADAMMONEY.com. You can also Google me, boo. I should
all
be
over.
first page.
She's all over. And you have a great sizzle reel, I have to say. I don't know who did that for you, but you have a great sizzle reel.
Letitia.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wonderful. Great job. Cool.
It's great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great having you. I think our audience will really understand the language that you use, and I think a lot of them will be able to relate to it. I know that definitely David and I definitely did ourselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I miss y'all.
Likewise. Start your journey to financial independence with a checking and savings account that doesn't nickel and dime you with fees. Get a Capital One 360 checking or 360 performance savings account at Capital One today.
Thank you again, Tarra, for a fun and informative interview. It's always great to see you. Thank you, our listeners, again, for listening to another episode of the podcast. Here's your Queer Money takeaway from this episode. Buy Tarra's books, both of them, Financial Fornication and the 4 financial languages.
For a chance to possibly win a free copy of Tara's book, 4 Financial Languages, The Secret to Communicating About Money, reply to the show notes that we'll email about this episode with the subject line book. If you're not already on the Queer Money Podcast email list, WTF, subscribe via the link in your podcast player.
Then join us Tuesday when we share the steps for how LGBTQ plus students who live in hate states can afford out-of-state tuition in accepting states.
Thank you and have a great week.